All right, shalom, everyone. Continuing our discipleship study. We're in Matthew chapter 14, verse 34. All right, verse 34. When they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret, and when the men of that place recognized him, they sent out into all the surrounding region, brought to him all who were sick, and begged him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, and as many as touched it were made perfectly well. So again, at this point, the shepherd, the leader, the discipleship leader, has a reputation, and people start bringing people to him. Okay, so whether it be the disciples, whether it be the multitudes are bringing other people, they're benefiting from, his ministry and are bringing others. So now let's go to chapter 15, verses 1 to 3. We're going to skip around. So 1 to 3, verse 10, verse 12, and verse 15. So 1 to 3 says, Then the scribes and Pharisees who were from Yerushalayim came to Yahusha, saying, Why do your disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat bread. Verse 3, he answered and said to them, and you can see what he read there. He basically says, you guys transgress the commandments of Yahuwah by your own tradition. And then in verse 10, it says, When he had called the multitude to himself, he said to them, Hear and understand not what goes into, am I reading this right? Yeah. Hear and understand. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth. This defiles a man. Then his disciples came and said to him, Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? So again, we're not talking about hurtful righteous words. We're talking about dynamic of discipleship, right? So you got the enemies always coming. You always have your scoffers, you have your doubters, you have your mockers, you have those who have ill intentions to try to bring down the teacher, the shepherd, okay? They're gonna come, it's inevitable, all right? These guys are attacking the disciples, but they're coming to the teacher, attacking the disciples, trying to trap them. And then Yahusha, now, most of the time, what we've been seeing is Yahusha teaches, he does his thing, and multitudes are following. Here, he's actually calling them now this time. He's actually telling the multitudes to come with him. So they must have been nearby somewhere. And he must have, I think he was a little loud in probably announcing them, saying, Yo, guys, come over here. And then he said what he said. Then the disciples came in verse 12 and said to him, Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? So again, here's the engagement. It's normal. It's a normal conversation, right? It's just natural. But you know what you said was offended? Normal. They're around each other. That's what they do. Verse 13. But he answered and said, Every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted. Leave them alone. They are blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind leads the blind, both will fall into a ditch. Verse 15, then Peter answered and said to him, Explain this parable to us. All right. This is the natural student-teacher relationship. Explain this to us. Asking the question. So verse 12 was a question that kind of asserted a point. It's a question that comes with an assertion. So in other words, the disciple, even though he's asking, did you know that the Pharisees were offended? He's basically saying, you offended the Pharisees. So it happens. And so in our relationship, right? You know how we do the studies on scriptures and you guys give your opinion on what you think the scriptures are saying. For a while, I was debating how much of that should we do, but I could see that there's room for people to share their observations of what's going on. That's okay. The disciples are sharing their observation, even though their observation is wrong. And Yahusha responds to that observation and is able to, correct them on that. So And in other words, Yahushua's response is, so what if they're offended? This is the truth. I'm preaching you the truth right now. This is the truth of those guys. Okay? Then Peter answered and said to him, explain this parable to us. So Yahushua said, are you also without understanding? And it goes on. So that's what I got for that. To 16. Yeah, that's it. Anybody got anything? Milo?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
When I got this aspect in the beginning, when you're reading about how the Pharisees came, that the teacher Messiah was standing up for his disciples. And he just went, it seems like, how do you say when you're able to get past the crap and you go straight for, like, you know what I'm trying to say, in the sense of where people can get around what you're saying. Like they say, hey, why?
Beating around the bush.
Beating around the bush. Thank you.
It gets to the point.
It gets to the point. Beating around the bush and saying, no, you guys are actually wrong and transgressing. So he's like, I'm not even going to address what you're talking about. Well, he kind of does. He's saying, you guys are really the ones in sin. And the teacher's able to defend the disciples when they're not doing wrong. At the same time, I also see this last story where the disciples asking him, like, can you explain this? When I hear Messiah's response, like, are you still without understanding? It's saying, I expect you to grow. Like, you've been with me so long, you should understand
Good catch.
What I'm trying to say. He still explained it, but I'm going, so I think there's a expectation that we're supposed to grow and keep going to the next level. And that's what the teacher or discipler wants of his disciples, to not be stagnant. That's kind of what's gathering at.
Very nice. Go ahead, D-Ro.
I was reading on where he calls them phonies, in verse 6, and he did it with aggressiveness, phonies. Isaiah prophesies well against you and said, this people is honoring me with their lips, but their heart is very far from me. Now, that's pretty hardcore to say to somebody too,
That's for her pro-righteous words. That's for her pro-righteous words teaching. We're doing disciples right now. We're doing discipleship teaching right now. Yeah, I know it's hard because we're overlapping. Yeah, we're overlapping. We're kind of going over the same passages twice, so it's all good. Yeah, I know. I have a combined study.
But that helps too in discipleship too. That you have to have strong shoulders and you have to be able to rebuke somebody and not be scared to.
Thank you. Nice. That makes sense. I like that, D-Rel. See, I like how you just did that. That is applicable to this study. Very good. No, that's true. That's good leadership, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Ezzy.
Yeah, just to add, I think we're all pretty much saying the same thing, but with discipleship, eventually you're trying to get to a certain level. Like the disciple, you're not going to be a disciple, or you are a disciple forever, but eventually you're going to have your own disciples, just like John. Yehochanan the Immerser. And I had a cross-reference, if you will, in Proverbs 14, 15. It says, the simple believes every word, but the clever one watches his step. The wise fears and turns away from evil, but a fool rushes on and is reckless. So, as you're building up this maturity and you're watching your teacher, eventually you're going to have to call people out on some things, and it's going to have to be wise, or it will be seen as wise if it's according to Torah. But if you're just letting folly continue, then you're not really upholding the authority that you're representing. So that makes sense.
Well taken. No, very good. Thank you. Let's go to chapter 15, verse 21 to 28. I'm going to rotate today. I'm going to give y'all an opportunity to read, get engaged, since I talk a lot. I'm going to start with D-Rel. 21 to 28.
All right, let me get back to math. Matthew 21 through 28.
Matthew 15, verse 21 to 28.
Oh, 15, okay.
Yeah.
I'll just open my ISR. Okay, I got it. 15, 21 to 28. But Yahusha went out from there, and he came to the borders of Sur and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from those borders came forth, crying out, and she said, have pity on me, my master, son of David. My daughter is badly driven by a demon. But he did not give her
A reply, an answer, something.
For some reason, my screen skipped on me. All right, here we go. But he did not give her an answer. And his disciples came and begged him. And they were saying, "Send her away, for she is crying after us." But he answered and said to them, "I am not sent except to the sheep that have strayed from the house of Yashrael."
All right, pause. Pause. Yeah, so right away, so his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away." So here's the disciples, right, asking their leader to take care of a problem that they see as a problem, rather than them taking it into their own hands to take care of the problem. It's just an example here. There's probably instances where you need to take matters into your own hands, like Matthew 18, where if a brother's in sin, go to him one-on-one, tell him his sin, and then bring another witness like that. But here's an instance where it's like, maybe this should be something that the leader takes care of, right? We're out and about. Multitudes, people are constantly coming to him to get ministered to. So this would be the call of the leader of what to do with this situation. So I just see like that protocol, they kind of respect that boundary there. Go ahead, you can continue, D-Bro.
Okay. But he answered and said to them, "I am not sent except to the sheep that have strayed from the house of Yashrael." But she came and worshipped him and said, "My master, help me." He said to her, "It is not good to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs." But she said, "Yes, my master, even the dogs eat from the crumbs that fall from their master's table, and they live." But then Yahusha said to her, "O woman, great is your faith. It will be done for you as you will." And her daughter was healed from that moment. Hallelujah.
All right. I don't have anything else for the rest of the story there. So anybody else got anything? I don't think there was anything else regarding discipleship.
Just multitude for that one.
Yeah, multitude. That's true. Because she's considered a multitude, right?
Yep.
So
she has faith. She listens.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah, something that I see is, with her being a multitude, she kept coming. Like she didn't really stray. And I'm sure in the mind of the disciples, they probably would have just turned her away. But Yahusha, because of her faith, went ahead and healed. So I think that is a learning opportunity. When people are coming, you're going to have to discern. There's a level of discernment there. But if they keep coming, you don't want to turn away a potential sheep or a potential person that can receive healing from the word. So that's what I see in that example.
Nice.
Yeah. She had very good stubbornness faith.
Nice. Very good. I like that. Let's see what we got next. 29 to 31. Milo, if you want to read that.
Mm-hmm. And Yahusha departed from thence and came near unto the Sea of Galilee and went up into the mountain and sat down there. And great multitudes came unto him, having with them those that were lame, blind, dumb, maimed, and many others, and cast them down at Yahusha's feet, and he healed them. Insomuch that the multitude wondered when they saw the dumb to speak, the maimed to be whole, the lame to walk, and the blind to see, and they glorified Yahuwah of Israel.
Okay. Another instance where we got the multitudes coming again. I don't know if it's Yahusha calling them to come or if they came on their own accord, but again, Yahusha has a reputation now, and people are flocking to him for answers. And he delivers. Let's see, 32 to 33. I think this is very telling. It says, verse 32, "Now Yahusha called his disciples to himself and said, I have compassion on the multitude because they have now continued with me 3 days and have nothing to eat." I found this very interesting when I read this. I was like, hold up. So I don't know how many passages we've been reading. I don't know what includes the 3 days. I don't know how far back this goes. But to know that these multitudes were following him for 3 days, and that they were, in verse 33, it says, "Then his disciples said to him, where could we get enough bread in the wilderness to fill such a great multitude?" So not only were they following him for 3 days, but they actually went into a wilderness or a deserted place, which is away from their comfort zone, which is away from their homes and away from their, you know what I'm saying, their atmosphere, their normal atmosphere. And you know, want to know what me and my wife thought of? Retreats. You know how churchianity, Christians, they do their retreats, they go away to camp and things like that. It's kind of similar to that. And now that I think of it, I don't know if this is why they do retreats, if they actually connect it with a scriptural reason, but it makes sense that sometimes when people get away from their home element, they can observe more and learn better, you know, less distractions. Yeah, so these people, and probably including this woman, this Gentile woman that just got healed, her daughter was healed before, I think this included that she was part of this multitude that was following. So there's a consistency of attendance, participation going on, and Yahusha, I'm sure, can see that and observe that. What do you guys think? D-Rail, and then Jeff and Sakiah.
Well, I wanted to also point out, like, I believe that, you know, their tabernacles is another way for retreating as well. You know, I know myself when I was out there in that tent, I became one with Yahuwah, because I took all those days off, so I didn't get, you know, absorbed with all the nonsense of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another great thing we could do, like, you know, camp out, get a retreat. Because I drive by this camp for Christians all the time. And so I think, yeah, you're right. They do those things. And I wonder where they got that from, either tabernacles or from that verse right there.
Interesting. Yeah. I was kind of looking at it as a random time during the year that's not on a feast day, right? Especially for multitudes, if you're trying to gather people you don't really know. But maybe renting a motel or something somewhere and then gathering in a local park or something that's nearby, you know? But just, I mean, they were outside, that was for sure. They weren't indoors. So I think the gathering outside stuff is beautiful. Again, the gathering in the parks, you know, like I said, the Church of Christ, there's a Church of Christ denomination that does that. Some Black Hebrew Israelites do that a lot. They're usually always out in the open, you know, doing stuff.
Well, a lot of people gather. We always used to gather too, just on the streets, gather just at a park and a barbecue. But we weren't doing it in Yahuwah's name. We were doing it in our own selfish things.
Right.
So why not do that in Yahuwah's name and edify Yahuwah? Exactly.
And it's pretty safe because you don't got to bring people into your home yet that you don't fully trust, you know.
Yeah.
Not that they were never at homes, because we read before, right, that they were in somebody's home and Yahusha's family was looking for them, right? So there's a time for that, but I think a lot of this multitude interaction happens out in the public, outside. But in this particular case, these multitudes were following him for 3 days, and they were out in a deserted place in this scripture here.
No food.
Jeff, Sakiah, what you got?
Yeah, they also had Shiloh. You know, they had a place where they could go and gather. And I think that's important.
Break down Shiloh for us who don't understand what you're talking about.
It's a place where the Israelites could go and feast together. It's like a third-party place, it sounds like, to me when I read about it, where they could all go and gather and not be at one particular person's house.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Can you give us a reference for that when you get a chance?
Oh, give me a second. Yeah. Shiloh means place of rest. Let me look it up for you real quick.
All right, Ezzy, go ahead.
So in verse 32, when he says, and Yahusha, having called his Talmudim near, said, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have now continued with me 3 days and do not have whatever to eat. I do not want to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way. I think it shows the commitment of the people to the teaching or the hearing of the word. And, ultimately, an overseer or an elder should be hospitable and should be patient. And earlier, when we were reading back in 14, when they got into the boat, or before they got into the boat, the disciple was saying, yeah, let them, send the crowds away so they can go buy food for themselves. And Yahusha rebuked them then, saying that they don't need to go away, you need to give them food to eat. So I think it's showing that giving to the needy and giving to those that are in need, whether it's food or whatever you have, to show not only your level of servitude to the people, but also your faith in Yah and in providing whatever you need for those people that are with you, and not just sending them away or, being a coward, if you will. Because if people are hungry and you do have something to give, to me, it would be selfish to hoard this or be coveting this instead of giving it to those who are in need and don't have the same level of faith that you should have as a disciple for your needs to be met. So I definitely think it's a teaching moment in giving to those who are in need. So
thanks, Ezzy. Hospitality is one of the qualifications of an elder, that they be hospitable. It's very good catch. And
just the distinction I am seeing between the multitudes is sometimes their motive to me is laid out a little bit different. It's not so much as the word, which obviously Messiah's going to take those advantages, but because the blind are being able to see, the lame are able to walk. So they're looking for the miracles. And there's other times where he mentioned you came not because of miracles, but you came for food because of what I did with the food. So sometimes there is a distinction with the differences in their intentions of their heart, if I can relate that into the scriptures, versus actually wanting to sit at the feet and hear, versus I'm going to take this opportunity because you're here, because I have this reputation, because I'm growing, and this is what he was supposed to do as part of his ministry. I'm going to heal you, and you're going to hear the word because the word is literally here, like the word of Yah. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. Very good. I like it. Derail.
I wanted to just read the Peshitta of what he says. I don't know, it's a little different, but it's the same. He says, I am moved with pity for this multitude. And that kid, like, he puts pity on him. It moved him, And then he shows so much love that he wants to feed the multitude. He doesn't want them to go out leaving and, faint and things of that nature. So it shows we also have to show love too, kindness.
Yes, sir. Those. Very good. I like it. Ezzy, is your hand up again? No? All right. Let me put it down. All right. Let's move on. Very good. Good catches here. Chapter 15, verse 34 to 39. Ezzy, you want to read 34 to 39?
Sure. It says, and Yahusha said to them, how many loaves do you have? And they said, 7 and a few little fish. And he commanded the crowd to sit down on the ground. And taking the 7 loaves and the fish, giving thanks, he broke them and gave to his Talmudim, and the Talmudim to the crowd. And all ate and were satisfied, and they picked up what was left over of the broken pieces, 7 large baskets filled.
Yeah, all the way to 39.
Oh, you said 39. Okay, sorry. And those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. And dismissing the crowd, he went into the boat and came to the borders of Magdala. Okay.
Answers one of my questions about females and males. So the multitudes had both males and females. And again, a female approached Yahusha, right? Didn't we just read that? A Gentile woman approached Yahusha. Now, he did have his disciples with him, so he wasn't alone.
A Canaanite, for that matter.
So the service is available to men and women. You know what I'm saying? That was a question I had. I'm like, should I only be ministering to men? But here I see it's both. So the other thing was, just as Yahusha was showing hospitality, that hospitality reflects off of his disciples, who he delegates to take care of this group of people. So it's not just Yahusha doing everything. He's delegating, them to serve the food and get the food and all that. So
I literally have that word. He is delegating.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. So the disciples are participating in that and learning as well. Learning to serve. So they serve physical food, but we also to serve spiritual food. Let's go to 16. Chapters 5 to 12.
Verses 5 to 12.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jeff and Zakai, y'all want to read?
Where are we going next? He froze up on me.
Chapter 16.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just getting you those references.
Okay.
Chapter 16.
Sorry about that. I was pulling those references for you.
Hmm.
Oh,
All right, where are we at? Romans?
yeah, Romans.
Matthew.
No, Matthew.
Sorry about that. Matthew. I sent something over to your phone, and I've got some more on those references for you. Okay, Matthew, what now?
16.
Verses.
Okay, Matthew chapter 16. I've got the King James in front of me, so please forgive. All right. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came, and
Verse
tempting. What's that?
Verse 5 to 12.
Oh, yep. And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Yahusha said to them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have taken no bread. Which when Yahusha perceived, he said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye among yourselves, because ye have brought no bread? Do ye not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000, and how many baskets ye took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets you took up? How is it that you do not understand that I spake it into you concerning bread, that ye should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees? Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees.
Yeah, so part of the mission of the shepherd, Yahusha, was to make it very clear that he was against the doctrines and traditions of men. And that was not a secret, okay? And so I think that was a very highlighted message that he preached to his disciples. So again, just like my wife said earlier, Yahusha expects them to grow in understanding. So again, he's like, come on, you should be getting this by now. You know what I mean? Here's also the patience of the teacher, being patient with the ignorance or the lack of understanding from the disciples, even though they're not understanding things yet, right? But he's repeating himself. He's, again, teaching them and being patient with them. Also, the disciples are accepting the rebuke and accepting the correction. It's not like they're fighting with the teacher, okay? They're not fighting. They might have forgotten, or it might have been ignorant of something, but they're accepting the correction. They're not entering into a debate with the teacher right now. D-Rel?
I wanted to ask, now how long have they been discipled for so far now? What do we say? Was that hard to tell?
I remember I said it earlier. Matthew is not a good chronological book giving us a timeline. I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing it. It's been 3 days. The multitudes are following him. I was like, wow, we actually got a little timeline going on here. But other than that, I don't know. I know that, it's been said his ministry was 3 years, right? So we can imagine they were around for 3 years. But I don't know where we're at within those 3 years on this passage here.
Fair enough.
Ezzy.
I slick forgot what all I wanted to say, but the only thing I was going to say is that it shows, that's what I was going to say, that I think it shows how, like you said, nobody is above correction, but also the impact that the Pharisees and the Sadducees have on their doctrines. And I think that's something that we ourselves as disciples are going to be met with, because there's so much knowledge out there. There's so many different doctrines and teachings. And it can sow some doubt in it, because there's oral law and then there's the law of the Torah. But the teacher being patient with the disciples, that, even as they mature, there's going to be some things that maybe are just, they've been planted there for a while and it has to be broken. But also the disciple being submissive or willing to take the rebuke and examine that situation against Torah or against what the teacher is actually saying, to, so that they can overcome that, versus looking at the Pharisees and the Sadducees or those other teachers that are teaching doctrine rather than teaching Torah. But something that I see.
Or like we read before, what you're saying, Ezzy, it needs to be uprooted. These false doctrines that we've been taught.
Amen. Very good, guys. All right, let's go to verse 21 of Matthew 16. No, verse 13 to 20. Thank you. When Yahusha came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that the Son of Man, I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others Yirmiyahu, or one of the prophets. He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Classic interaction here. This is not so much teaching as relational. This is like relationship now. Okay, guys, you've been with me this long. You know what I mean? What are people saying about me, and what do you say about me? It's really relational right now. Not so much doctrinal. It kind of is doctrinal too, because it's like, what is your understanding of Scripture? And in light of me coming and doing what I'm doing, does it make sense? Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim." Yahusha answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon. For flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter. And on this rock I will, or Kepha, I will build my assembly. And the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Yahusha just promoted Kepha. Okay, again, that is the Kepha didn't, the first and second Peter and the epistles and the book of Acts isn't Peter taking it upon himself to be a leader and apostle. You know what I'm saying? It was passed on to him by Yahusha himself. So again, that's the protocol here. That's how it works. You know, like you, again, if there's no leadership around you, obviously we take what we know from Scripture and the Ruach and Yahuwah, and we try to, you know, but the goal should be that we need to really make an effort to find an assembly or something to put ourselves under, and not just be YouTube viewers or, you know, Facebook followers, you know, of certain ministries. We should, if you're benefiting from, let me put it this way, and this is an advertisement for all assemblies out there, okay? I'm not going to mention names because I don't advertise people very easily. But if you're benefiting from a particular ministry, you might as well contact them and ask to get a little bit more involved. Okay? I mean, you're already benefiting from them. You might as well fully initiate, send an email or a number out. Okay? Now you might find out some good stuff, you might find out some bad, but that's why you need to investigate. You need to see if what you're hearing on YouTube is consistent with what you might be able to see outside of YouTube. Okay? But, you know, we're not called to make multitudes. That's not the calling. The calling is to go forth and make disciples. All right? So anyway, yeah, the protocol. You get under leader, you get under some cover and get under some structure, and you submit, you learn, you serve, and then you allow, you know, go under that structure so that when you go out and you go forth and make disciples, you know, you've actually done the work as well. There's some more honor that comes along with that rather than somebody who's never sat under any authority. You know, I've been a Christian since I was 16 years old. I must have invested 11 years in Christianity before I decided to come out. I went to Christian college. I've been to 5 different churches. I've been under different kinds of leadership. You know, I've submitted myself under mentors. You know, I understand submission. I understand this concept. So at least there's some background, even though when I left Christianity, it was like me swimming in the ocean, trying to grab whatever I could to stay afloat. You know what I mean? I tried a few different assemblies and I just couldn't get with the assemblies, you know, fully. Some didn't even have structure. So even if I wanted to get under some leadership, they weren't functioning that way. They didn't have elders. They didn't believe in needing elders and shepherds, you know. So that's why I felt led to start my own, you know. But, you know, so if that's you, go ahead and do it. But if there's a ministry or assembly near you, or you're benefiting, like you're watching these YouTube videos, you might as well email me and contact me and ask to get involved. At least, you know. There's blessing in order. There's blessing in order. Yahuwah is a God of order and structure. And there's a blessing when you come under that. You know. You will be blessed as well. You know. When people come under you and you expect them to, you know, submit under your authority. Well, you can relate with that because you've also done it. D-Rail, what you got?
Okay. Were you going to read more of that, or is that it? That part?
Verse 20.
Yes, I wanted you to read.
Go ahead. You want to read verse 20 and break it down?
Well, I was going to ask a question.
Okay. All right. Let me read it. And then you ask the question. You read it?
Okay. I'll read it.
Oh my gosh. It's like that delay, that East Coast. All right, go ahead.
Then he ordered his disciples to tell no man that he is the Messiah. Why did he say this? Why did he say this?
Why did he say that?
Why did he order them not to?
Well, this is not the first time he's asked them not to say anything. But then there's sometimes where he tells them to say stuff. It's one of those things where some things is not for everybody to hear right now. It wasn't the timing, right? The timing where this was said was after Acts, I'm sure, after the outpouring and after Peter's ministry was officially functioning, right? I mean, obviously, when this letter was written or this story was shared, it was being publicized. Would you agree? At some point, it was said. We wouldn't know about it if it wasn't said. But for that particular moment, for that timing, probably until Yahusha died and was crucified, it was probably something that wasn't to be announced yet, you know. Ezzy?
Yeah, something I noticed in 13 through 20 is he posed the question to all of the disciples. And I think it's similar to what you were saying, Brother D, like he's trying to gauge, I think, where they are. I think because of where they're about to go. He's always doing this gauging, if you will. But only one person answered the question, even though he addressed everyone. And like he says, you know, this isn't flesh and blood that has revealed it to you. Now, it could be speculation, but what I see is that he's establishing their level of faith. And because Kepha is the only one that answered, it would be hypocrisy or like a false belief if everyone else goes out proclaiming it and they don't actually believe it. They're saying it because someone else said it. Similar to when you have a discipleship and they're teaching something, if you just go out and start teaching on it and you don't have the full understanding, or your faith is not in it, or you don't have that foundation like we were talking about, where you can build precept upon precept to actually bring about understanding, then you're doing what the Pharisees and the Sadducees are doing. You're just spreading, you know, whatever sounds good off of your lips. So I think it's interesting that he gauges and then he promotes the one, or gives a more responsibility to the one that has actually shown his level of faith. But it's interesting how that relationship goes when we go on. So that was just something that I saw there.
Nice. Very good. Good observation. All right, let's keep going. 21, verse 21 to 23, chapter 16, 21 to 23. It says, from that time, Yahusha began to show to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised the third day. Then Peter, the man who just got promoted, took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you. But he turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan, for you are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things of Elohim, but the things of men. Is Yahusha bipolar, or does he call things out when they need to be called out? And is he an honest and straightforward guy? He's honest and straightforward. Now, did Peter reply back to him? Did they get into a debate about this matter? Do we see a debate going on? Hold on, Yahusha. Wait a minute. Who are you talking to? I know you're a shepherd and everything, but just because you're a shepherd, there's none of that going on. There's hush your mouth and okay, teacher, I will shut my mouth. But those are harsh words. And I will admit, I accept this as a rebuke to me, okay? The patience, the endurance, I need some of that, okay? Moses striking the rock, I think I would have broke that rock. I would have probably broke that rock on somebody's head, you know? Moses, for goodness sake, at least he was merciful. He hit the rock with a stick. All he did was tap on the rock. I don't know how hard he hit the rock, but all the stress that Moses went through. But here we go, Yahusha, again, this is not the first time he's rebuking his own disciples and correcting them, but he's not cutting them off the relationship, right? He's enduring with them. He's just saying, back off, sit down. That's all he's saying. He's saying, stand down. Military term, stand down, soldier. Stand down. You know, and that's it. There has to be a respect there. Now, I wonder what would be the reaction if there was a back and forth thing. I can only wonder. I do know what scripture talks about when you're rebuking your elders and you're out of line. That person has to be rebuked. And if he ain't taking correction, he has to be kicked out. You know, take him before the assembly, and if it doesn't work, take him out. That's what the order is. So anyway, I digress. Very intense situation here. He just got promoted, for goodness sake. He just affirmed. And that was not no light affirmation neither. He said, I'm going to build I'm giving you the keys. And whatever you bind, a lot of people like to take that scripture and apply it to us. Like this applies to everybody. Maybe not. Maybe that was a specific power and authority that was given to Peter, who then physically laid his hands on other people who were also able to operate with those signs, wonders, and miracles in the book of Acts. You know? Ezzy and then Derail. Ezzy first.
I go after Milo.
Okay, Milo first.
No, I was going to say, I think this, I laugh because we've done this to each other. When you recognize when someone is walking in the spirit and doing something of the spirit, and when it's something coming from Hasatan. And I think that is something that's very powerful and needed, especially from a discipler, the teacher, to be able to acknowledge and say, this right now is of the spirit, and what you've just done or what you said or what you did or whatever, that comes from the Father. And how you're thinking, what you're doing, or what you're saying is of Satan, and I'm calling it out, calling a spade. And many people don't like that very black and white talk because it is offensive. It creates that offense. But as disciples, we have to be able to learn that, because at the end of the day, when we go out into the world doesn't care about our offenses. They don't care. I mean, we see the way the laws are changing, right? So us as disciples have to build up that strength and that endurance to be able to take the quote unquote lashes from within, you know, our brothers and from our teachers in this.
Judgment starts in the house.
Judgment starts in the house, so that we can be able to be strong out in this world. So I just think it's interesting how you see the spirit. He calls out the spirit through him. And he says, and that's Satan. And we've done this to each other. It's like, get behind me, Satan. I said that to my hubby. I said, that's not of Yah, or he said it straight to me. And we have to be able to take that and say, all right, I need to look at what I'm saying or doing. So there's something that's needed within that relationship. Call a spade a spade.
Ezzy.
This sounds all too familiar, but what I will say is that I think it's interesting how that bravery and that courage can quickly turn to pride, because we're human. You know,
Yeah.
you have to be, and it's interesting what he gave Kepha, because I think there has to be a level of bravery and courage and this outspokenness in order to overcome demons and,
True.
you know, some
Yeah.
stuff.
That's true.
But I know we're not on hurtful, righteous words. He called the man Satan. I mean, it don't get no realer than that. So I see two things, like Mila said, the discernment of the teacher, but also the willingness to take that rebuke, or there is no, you know, back and forth battle, but how that bravery and that courage, those positive things, can easily, because we are fleshy, turn into negative things such as pride. So that was it.
Well said, Ezzy. Derail.
Yeah, I like the part where he's like, you are a stumbling block to me because you do not reason of Yah, but of human. We've seen this, you know, in the eldership, you know, it becomes a stumbling block for everybody in the fellowship. If, you know, one person is getting behind somebody else that is of Satan and not of, you know, Yahuwah. And I think in discipleship, we have to be able to have structure, and we have to be able to discern what is from Yahuwah and what is not. Otherwise, it'll become a stumbling block, you know, in your discipleship and your teachings and preachings, and it leads other people astray.
Yes, sir. I'm going to try to do it better this round. Try to be more one accord. More one accord. Jeff and Zakiah, what you got?
Yeah, like another thing that we're dealing with when you're talking about culture is our pride and the level of pride that we have and that we've been allowed to get to. And then when someone talks to us, like corrects us, like sometimes pride doesn't allow that, you know, pride doesn't allow them to be put in their place, you know? And so that's just a character trait to watch out for, because it's generally pride that talks back.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right. Let's do a little bit more, and then we're going to end this recording. I haven't been keeping track of time, so I'm not sure how long we've been on here. So that was verse 23. Let's go to 24 to 27. Milo, you want to read? Derail, did you just say you're going to read?
I like to read.
Go ahead and read. And then Milo.
And you know I'm reading. And you know I'm reading from the Peshitta, just so you know.
Right.
Okay.
Chapter 16, 24 to 27.
Oh, there we go.
All right, here we go. Then Yahusha said to his disciples, whoever wants to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and let him come after me. For whoever wills to save his life will lose it, and whoever will lose his life for me will find it. For what does a person benefit if he gains the whole world and lacks his soul? Or what will a person give to regain his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in the glory of his Father with the holy angels, and then he will repay each man according to his works. Amen, I say to you, that there are men who are standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man who comes with his kingdom. Hallelujah.
All right, so this has some contextual application here. Obviously, this is Yahusha on the earth, and he just said he's about to suffer many things. And likewise, he mentioned it before. If you heard it before in our previous videos, he said the student is not greater than his teacher, right? And if they call the teacher Beelzebub, how much more those of his household? So he's already letting us know that you're going to suffer what I suffer if you want to really faithfully follow me. So I think that's, we can try to spiritualize this and try to apply it in different ways. I don't think that would be appropriate, but I think the message here is the shepherd, again, is setting a standard and is letting them know that if you really want to follow me and preach what I preach and believe what I believe, you're going to suffer what I have to suffer. You're going to go through the same things. My family betrayed me. Your family will betray you. You're going to be hurt by even those that are in this community. You're going to be stabbed in the back. You're going to be stabbed in the back again in the future because you're vocal against sin. you're going to offend people. You're going to hurt people. That's what I see from this passage. But the actual literal context is about the physical persecution that's getting ready to come. You know, the martyrdom, the deaths, the jail sentences, the beatings, all that is getting ready to come. D-Rel, do you still have something? Or is that your hand?
I was gonna say, this really goes to show you, like what he's saying from 24 to 28, is that, are you willing to do this? Are you willing to, sign up for your, pretty much? Are you ready to be a disciple and ready to disciple? You're going to spiritual and physical, man. You're gonna, spiritually, you're gonna be hurt. Physically, you're gonna be hurt. Maybe it can happen. Your family's gonna come against you. He says it before that. Your father against son, and things of that nature. So, are you willing to do this? You know what I mean? Are you ready to sign this right now? Think about it, pray on it. Otherwise, it's not for you. Don't do it. But you can still be a multitude and listen, and gain what you need to gain out of that. And y'all willing, you'll preach what you've heard too.
You said he's pulling out the paper as a sign, and you just brought to my memory, I'm sure the disciples are thinking, this is an assumption, but I'm sure the disciples are thinking, what do you mean? We already signed up. We're good. Like we already said we're following you. And there's always more. There's always more. You know what I mean?
That was the probation period.
No, I think it's a probationary period. I think the multitudes are still on probationary period.
Right.
But the disciples are in the program. But within the program, there's different levels, and there's also a renewing of the vows,
There you go.
Better terms, renewing the vows. And we're about to go into another season. We're going into another season. We're going into a specific place. If you really are going to still follow me, then this is what's expected.
It makes me think of when you said, I think that's a very, very good point, because correct me if I'm wrong, when he says, you have to eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, that there were some disciples, and it says disciples could not take that and left. And then he looked at his other disciples and
can't wait till we get there.
Oh, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
But it goes in line with what you're saying. He says, and he says the disciples are too. So it is this
Very
aspect
good.
of we're here, but I think that's a beautiful thing of the discipler to desire, saying we're going to keep going. We don't, she's so precious. Don't want to stay stagnant. Sorry, I had a spoiler.
And some will leave.
And some will leave.
That's normal. It's going to happen.
How down are you?
Go to the next level. But these people are not. These people want to stay right here. It's normal. It's going to happen. That's a good point. Wow.
Hallelujah.
I want to do one more chapter. One more chapter. 17. Let's do 17.
Can you pause for a second?
Okay, I'm going to pause.
Yeah, but.
All right, let's go to chapter 17, verse 22 to 23. My apologies. Chapter 17, verse... Oh, actually, we're supposed to do 16, verse 28 to 17, verse 13. I'll tell you why. I'm going to read it. So chapter 16, verse 28 to 17, verse 13. So it says, "Assuredly I say to you, there are some standing here who shall not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Now, after 6 days, Yahusha took Peter, James, and John, his brother, led them up on a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. And behold, Moshe and Eliyahu appeared to them, talking with him. I believe, this is a side note, little nugget, can't help myself. Verse 28 is related to the transfiguration. And those are the guys that would not taste death until they saw the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. I think Yahusha transfigured into the glory that was spoken of back in verse 27. It says, for the Son of Man will come in the glory of his Father and his angels, or his messengers, and then he will reward each according to his works. I think they got a taste of that during the transfiguration when they saw Elijah and Moshe, Eliyahu Moshe. Anyway, that's a side note. But what I see here discipleship-wise is here's, again, an intimate moment where disciples are able to be part of. Yahusha goes away on a high mountain alone with Peter, James, and John, his brother. So you got the 12 disciples. You have more disciples than just the 12. And then you have multitudes. So you see, like, there's intimacy here going on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of two-part. Is it fair to say that elders or the teacher or discipler may also have a closer, more trusted disciples? And how does this differ from being partial?
That's a good question. I think partiality has to do with dealing with sin or what is right or wrong, and you pick sides on who you have a better relationship with based on, so you choose who's innocent based on your relationship rather than based on the truth. That's partiality. But having favored ones or more beloved or more relationship, stronger rapport is not partiality. That's a natural progression of relationships and discipleship. So there's always going to be one who's more committed. There's going to be one who's more devoted. There's going to be one who shows that, you know, by their time, their participation, their investment, their communication, their support. They're going to show how much they invest, you know, by how they, you see it in the fruit.
Thank you.
D-Rail, you got something? No? All right, cool beans. So let's keep going. So behold, Moshe and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him. Then Peter answered and said to Yahusha, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moshe, and one for Eliyahu. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and suddenly a voice came out of the cloud saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were greatly afraid, because Yahusha came and touched them. But Yahusha came and touched them and said, arise and do not be afraid. When they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Yahusha only. Now, as they came down from the mountain, Yahusha commanded them, saying, tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man is risen from the dead. See? I think that's similar to the other question D-Rail had, like, why is he saying don't say this? I think it has to do about until the resurrection and ascension. Verse 10, and his disciples asked him, saying, why then do the scribes say that, am I in the right place? Let me see. No, yeah, okay, good. I'm in the right place. Why then do the scribes say that Eliyahu must come first? Yahusha answered and said to them, indeed, Eliyahu is coming first and will restore all things. But I say to you that Eliyahu has come already. I'm not going to talk about this right now. And they did not know him, but did to him whatever they wished. Likewise, the Son of Man is also about to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he spoke to them of Yehochanan the Immerser. So just another a special thing here. I think we already talked about it. No need to keep beating it, but it's just an intimate moment with the inner circle that he gave. Ezzy, what you got?
The only thing that I can see here that we haven't already talked about is that pride got checked. They fell on their faces because he kept talking. You just talking and you just talking, And I can just see how he's like, yeah, hear him in verse 5 when the cloud came, and it says, and see a voice came out of the cloud saying, this is my son, the beloved in whom I delight. Hear him! Exclamation points is what it has in my book. And then they fell on their faces. So it's almost like, just shut up.
Wow.
You really check that pride. That's what I see.
And it says they were greatly afraid. So yeah, all right. I didn't catch that. Sometimes even the teacher can't convince. They have to hear it from Yahuwah. Is that what you're saying? Very good.
14 to 21.
All right, let's go to 14, verse 14 to 21. And it says, and when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him, kneeling down to him and saying, so now the disciples are going to the multitude. So many times you see the multitude coming to them. Sometimes we go to the multitude. So there's a mutual reciprocational relationship going on here. All right. The multitude, a man came to him, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers severely, for he often falls into the fire and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. Then Yahusha answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Yahusha rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then the disciples came to Yahusha privately and said, why could we not cast it out? So Yahusha said to them, because of your unbelief, for assuredly I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. D-Rail, go ahead. Let you get first dibs.
All right, I'm going to say two things. First, I was going to say the Peshitta version of verse 15. And he said to him, my Lord, have mercy on me. My son has a lunatic demon and has become ill, for he has fallen many times into the fire, many times in the water. I definitely didn't say what you said.
Yeah.
But then I was gonna say, if he says that if you had a faith like a grain of a mustard seed, you know how small that is? So he's saying that their faith was very smaller than a mustard seed. That is why they could not cast them out. So it's very important that we have faith in, in what, our teacher, and have faith in his word, Yahuwah's word. Very important.
Yes, sir.
No doubts. No doubts.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
No
Jeff, Kaya?
Yeah, I have a very interesting note, kind of a side note, but verse 21 does not exist in the NIV. They remove the action to the faith, and you'll hear people quote verse 20 all day long, but they won't quote the very next verse, and some Bibles are even missing it. So it shows that, yes, you have faith, but there is an action to your faith in verse 21. Yep. And they remove that action, and that nullifying the faith.
Yep, and that action is praying and fasting. Yep, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yahusha did it. Moses did it. Why shouldn't we be doing it? So yeah, it's very important. Again, the relationship here. Rebuke is normal. Rebuke is normal, expected. Okay. Here, Yahusha already gave his disciples power to go and cast out demons and stuff a long time ago. We read that already. So they were doing their job. They were in their role. They were in their place. There's space to grow and learn. Jeff said it good the other day when I was talking to him. Sometimes experience is the best teacher. So they went out there, they failed, and they got to see where they were lacking. And Yahusha got to help them with that. Yahusha was coaching them on that one. Let's go to 22? Mm-hmm. 22 to 20.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say also the rebuke is good, and the fact that the disciples they humbled themselves and asked, why can we do this? Instead of just keeping silent, actually asking a question, why am I not able to do these things and what is going on? That way they can learn.
Yep, absolutely. Ask, ask, ask. All right, verse 22. It says, now, while they were staying in Galilee, Yahusha said to them, again, just the travel. I'm sure if you look at a map and see all the places that they went, they were on the move, man. They were traveling a lot with Yahusha. That is very, very important to know for the context. They were mobile. I'm not saying you got to be mobile with me. I ain't mobile, okay? I'm a construction worker in New York City. I'm not taking my career with me unless I have vacation time and I'm going to go on a missions trip. That'll be a different story. Then I would expect, hopefully, and I would coordinate with my disciples to see if they could also be off with me at the same time. But I would like to do, something like that. Now, while they were staying in Galilee, Yahusha said to them, the Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and the third day he will be raised up. And they were exceedingly sorrowful. I only pointed that out just to show the relationship, right? We got compassion. Yahusha was showing compassion on the multitudes. Here we have the disciples being sorrowful now of the words that he's saying. Rather than rebuking him and saying, no, this can't be. Oh, nice. Yeah. So they're getting the picture now. They're starting to get the idea. Okay, this is going to happen. Let me not rebuke him again so I can be called Satan again. I don't want to be rebuked again this time. So let me just accept it and be sorrowful. All right, verse 24 to the end. It says, when they had come to Capernaum, those who received the temple tax came to Peter and said, does your teacher not pay the temple tax? And he said, yes. And when he had come into the house, Yahusha anticipated him, saying, what do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take customs or taxes? From their sons or from their strangers? Peter said to him, from strangers. Yahusha said to him, then the sons are free. Nevertheless, lest we offend them, go to the sea, cast in a hook, and take the fish that comes up first. And when you have opened its mouth, you will find a piece of money. Take that and give it to them for me and for you. It's a pretty funny story here. Go ahead.
I think verse 17, I know it's throughout this, Messiah has been very offensive, specifically to the Pharisees and everything. But now here he says, notwithstanding, unless we should offend them, just go do this. So even he has a balance in saying, I know when to offend and I know when not to offend.
That's great. That's good for her for words. Her for righteous words.
Oh, yeah.
That's
and
good,
teaching
though.
the disciples.
That's good. That's in both.
I would do a D-Rock.
It's in both.
It's good for disciples.
Yeah, it's good for both. It's good for both. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That was good. Pay your taxes. 501c3 churches, pastors ain't tax exempt. That's not scriptural. Even Yahusha paid taxes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to end there. That was chapter 17. D-Rel, you got something you want to say before we end?
I said something earlier. I don't know if you guys heard it. My thing froze up.
Nope. Yeah, we didn't hear it. Go ahead.
Okay. It was about how the disciples were humble enough to ask, what did they do wrong?
Oh, yeah.
Why couldn't they? You did hear that?
Yeah, we did.
Your hand wasn't down again, so we thought you put it back up for this part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, so with that being said, that's this round of discipleship according to Matthew. Shalom.